Welcome to Mark's
Red Rum.
Murder
Red Rum.
Mystery
Red Rum.
Monday.
Just like we planned it. Great. She is the purveyor of mystery. She is the lovely Courtney. Courtney, great to have you with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yes. Courtney, there was controversy about your segment last week. It had nothing to do with you.
I know. I feel terrible about it. Well, it's unfortunate that there's a lot that's going on in this world, and we, need to make a clear distinction between what this segment is. Right?
Yeah. It's this segment is about mystery, about, sadly, murder. It's like a kind of a Dateline thing. And so we've showcased the word mystery now in this segment so that it's Mark's Murder Mystery Monday. So
there you go.
Or something like that.
We're not celebrating murder.
No, most certainly not.
No.
And you have an abiding interest in a lot of different stories, and you look for those things that you feel would be of interest to the audience. What do you have for us today?
Well, today I have a story that is really well known, but has been talked about most recently because of a show that's come on to Hulu. And it's the story of the Chippendales murders.
Oh,
yes.
Chippendales murders. All
yes. Right. And so the show debuted on Hulu on the 22nd.
Now, have you watched that show yet?
I have. I've watched the first 2 episodes.
Okay.
And I like it. I think it's well done, and I think the actors are well cast. So,
Well, tell us about the murders for those who are not going to watch the show, like myself, for example.
Okay. So the sources I used, I actually listened to this former FBI agent, and he interviewed the actual FBI agent that worked on the case, which was really fascinating. But it's 2.5 hours.
FBI agent interviewing FBI agent.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
And the FBI agent who found the murderer in this case. And so it's really interesting to hear the backstory, but it is very long. Also, Women's Health, New York Times, there's a bunch of articles seeing as this murder took place in 1987. So,
well, you're quite the academic to refer to your sources, but let's just get on with the story, if you could, please.
Okay.
All right.
So everybody knows, for the most part, the Chippendales is a touring dance troupe, those male striptease performances. They actually had this very distinct bow tie collar and shirt cuffs, as I'm sure you're familiar with, Mark.
Yes, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, that's how you got your start, right?
I did. I don't like to make a big deal out of it, but because I'm too busy making a big deal out of other stuff.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
But
and
I think I could rock the Chippendale. If there was like a middle-aged Chippendale, I think I would be able to rock. Anyway, go ahead, Courtney.
Middle age.
How dare you? How dare you?
I was going to let that go.
Okay, stop it.
Yeah.
So, yes, we know Chippendales, the bow tie, the cuffs. All right.
So the cuffs, that's all inspired actually by Hugh Hefner, the Playboy Bunnies, who was a big icon and someone that the founder of Chippendales really aspired to be. So it's this show that comes out, but it was founded originally by a gentleman named Shaman Steve Banerjee. He went by Steve. He moved to the U.S. from Mumbai and was working in gas stations and had aspirations of owning a nightclub. But he wanted something that was very classy, very sophisticated. And again, mostly
like
because...
the Playboy clubs at the time. Which had no, that's really true. In the 70s, that was a big deal, right?
He was really inspired by Hugh Hefner. And so he bought this space in West L.A., and he started to have backgammon nights, which, by the way, actually sounds like a lot of fun to me, going to a nightclub and playing backgammon.
Sure.
But of course, that really didn't take off. And so he started to
Not
look
a lot
at...
of takers on backgammon night? Okay.
No. He did, sticking with that theme, though, he then moved into female mud wrestling, which I think is hard to make classy, I'll be honest. But... he did do that for a little while. And the club really wasn't taking off. I should mention, because it's pretty funny, that he named the club Destiny 2 because he thought that people would think there was a Destiny 1 which would mean a lot of success. And so he names this Destiny 2 and has this club going. Now,
ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
I don't think it didn't work, did it?
It didn't.
No.
It didn't. But he's often referenced as like this genius businessman kind of, but also marketer. And so it's just funny because some of the things that he did were somewhat unconventional.
But it was never called Chippendales? You're talking about Destiny 2 or
Destiny 2. That was the original club.
Okay.
So a gentleman named Paul Snyder walks into the club. Paul is probably most known for the unfortunate situation of murdering his wife, Dorothy Stratton.
The unfortunate situation?
Yeah, is that on his resume or something?
Hello, 911.
Yes.
Yeah, we have an unfortunate situation.
You may know me.
Dorothy Stratton, if you're watching on YouTube, is on the right, obviously, and that's Paul Snyder on the left. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so it is a horrible situation. He was very jealous. He was, from what I have read, he was very insecure. He was a club promoter his whole life. But he felt very insecure compared to his partner and eventual wife, Dorothy Stratton, who became a Playboy bunny, then became Playmate of the Year, and then started an acting career. And
With Peter
actually,
Bogdanovich,
yes,
he had a relationship.
exactly.
It was clear that those two were going to end up together, and it was a tragedy that,
But as it relates to his contributions to Chippendales, he walks into the club, he meets Steve Banerjee at Destiny 2, and he's the one that suggested the idea of a male review, of a male strip club. And
wow, that's the guy who actually came up with the idea. So Banerjee, who had the backgammon thing and all of that, he took the advice of Snyder.
Yeah. So he takes the advice of Snyder, and so he starts this male review, and that's when they name the club Chippendales, and they name it Chippendales after an antiquities, a company in England that makes fine furniture. So they named Chippendales again in the era of like trying to keep it upscale.
You can kind of tell that he's the idea guy based on their outfits, right? Like one guy is the creative, one guy's the business.
That is true. Yeah. And so they have this strip club, and it is very much that. And so someone else comes into the picture, and his name is Nick De Noia. And so Nick De Noia eventually becomes a business partner of Steve and Chippendales. But Nick De Noia is a choreographer. He's an Emmy Award-winning director and producer. And so he starts to explain to Steve that women need more than just the bodies, that they want storytelling, that they want costumes, that they want props. And so he starts to build out what feels more like a show. And that's really when Chippendales takes off. And so Nick De Noia becomes a business partner in Los Angeles, and Nick pitches Steve on doing a club in New York.
Okay.
So he founds the club in New York. They expand the brand, but they decide to part ways. And so closer toward like the end of the 80s, they actually agree on the back of a napkin how to distribute the company. And so Steve continues to have control over the Chippendales business. And then Nick gets the rights for the Chippendales tour and the club in New York. Mm-hmm. And in the contract on this napkin is the word perpetuity. And from what I know, Steve Banerjee doesn't actually know what perpetuity means. So
it is a ding word, to be fair. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
So he reflects back like, wow, I've just signed over the rights to the tour, forever.
So Steve, again, here, the guy with the coat and tie, he didn't know necessarily what perpetuity meant. Perpetuity sort of snuck in there.
Yeah, it snuck in there. And so
in a way, it was put over on him.
He
signed away his rights to the tour money, and that's where all the big money was coming.
Yeah, he's supposed to split the profits with Nick, but he signed over everything to Nick. And I bring it up because I believe that that's where the first sort of beginnings of frustration, anger, and resentment become part of Steve's relationship with Nick, because he feels like he's been had.
Yeah,
exactly.
He has been had on some level. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
So the touring takes off. Mm-hmm. So they tour all over the country, eventually all over the world, and it's doing very well. And Steve has actually had to claim bankruptcy for a variety of reasons. Yeah. He makes a mistake on a calendar print. The company, it's not doing as well in Los Angeles. And so Steve decides to hire a hitman to kill Nick De Noia,
Wow.
his business partner.
Nick De Noia is going to be offed by Steve.
Yes.
But Steve's hired somebody to do it.
Yes.
And we have a picture of that guy. Here it is right now.
So this is Ray Cohen.
He doesn't look like a Ray Cohen to me, if I can just say that. I don't mean to be profiling, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, he's got like 7 names, but his nickname is Ray. I'm just saving you and sparing you from the 7 names.
Okay.
And so Ray Cohen goes and he watches Nick De Noia, where he lives, his place of work, his offices for Chippendales. And so on April 7th, 1987, Nick De Noia Ray Cohen walks in. He goes up to the office. He asks where Nick De Noia is. Someone points him into the office where Nick De Noia is sitting. And he goes in and shoots him in the face and kills him.
Wow.
And he escapes, actually. For years, the killer's identity remains a mystery. So they do not know who killed Nick De Noia.
Wow, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, so it remains a mystery.
So
and then,
even though people could describe him, I mean, he walked into the office. I mean, so,
the gentleman that was there that worked with Nick pointed to Nick's office, could have described him, but he went unidentified for years.
Okay.
Yeah. And in 1991, an informant calls the FBI in their Las Vegas office and says, I've just been hired by Ray Cohen to kill employees of Adonis, which is a rival male strip club and group formed by former Chippendales dancers. So suddenly this informant has identified Ray Cohen as participating in some kind of murder for hire around the Chippendales brand.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who knew that this male strip thing was so competitive? They're killing each other over it. It's crazy.
I mean, I guess.
I don't know.
You just don't get it.
I
really.
don't get it. I don't. I didn't realize it was so. Anyway, go ahead.
And
so this, based on this anonymous tip that calls from the Las Vegas FBI office.
Yes.
Well,
it was an informant. His name was Strawberry. And Strawberry says, hey, Ray Cohen has just hired me to
is it
go.
Colin or Cohen?
It's Cohen.
Okay. All right. You keep saying you keep using the two. All right. It's throwing me off. I'm trying to put my corkboard.
You have strawberries in the colon.
Yeah, strawberries in the colon. Thank you. That's
Girl, you just.
It's Cologne. It's Cologne. Sorry. It's Ray Cologne.
It's Ray Cologne.
Yeah.
So all this time we said Ray Cohen. Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
It's because of So
Cologne. Okay.
Cologne. So.
Well, let me go back.
Right. He looks more like a Ray
Cologne. He could be a Ray Cologne.
Yeah. Hey,
Joe Box.
Joe Box and Little Anthony.
Yeah, and I'm going to have Strawberry handle some of this for you. Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
Oh, my God. How about...
Mo Black's brother, Fat Andy.
Yeah, he could do that. Mo Black's brother, Fat Andy, could take Ray Cologne to the location.
Oh, that's so funny.
Now, was Ray like a dancer? Was he in the outfit?
He wasn't. He was somebody that would do favors for Steve,
like
Banerjee.
Murdering people.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hey,
But
I need you to do me a favor.
Look,
I
need some half and half and a head of lettuce. And let's see if you could just top off the tank, if you would, on your way. And if you could just, at the end of the day, if you could just murder this guy.
Yeah.
You add that to the list. It would be...
when Ray Cologne gets arrested by the FBI, he explains that he was pressured into killing Nick De Noia by Steve Banerjee.
I see.
And that is, in fact, why he killed Steve Banerjee, was pressure from Steve. That Steve had hired him.
Here is a situation.
Steve had hired him to do other things like burn down rival clubs and kind of other little stuff that didn't work out.
Like murder
To
adjacent.
burning down.
Yeah.
I do the burn down thing.
Yeah, I'm working my way up, okay? I'm working my way up.
I might be able to refer you, but I really do not do the murder thing.
And so then, because he had failed at these attempted arsons, that he got pressured into killing Nick De Noia. So Ray spends some time in jail, and he eventually tells the FBI and admits to killing Nick De Noia, but also that Steve Banerjee was the one who had organized everything.
And so did they go after Banerjee then? They arrest him and convict him?
Yes.
Wow.
So they arrest Steve Banerjee in 1993 for murder for hire, racketeering, and attempted arson. He's sentenced to 26 years on a plea bargain, but he ends up killing himself in his cell a year later.
Oh, so it has a happy ending then. With
Yes, it does.
With the, wow.
Yeah, so, but it is.
So Ray Colon is still in prison?
I believe so.
Wow.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's a fascinating story. Actually, Steve Banerjee's son, I believe, is a male dancer. Has kept the family tradition going. Yeah.
Oh my!
I don't remember his name.
What?
That is just insane.
And Chippendales obviously continues as a brand. I think they're in Las Vegas. Yeah, they have a show.
Like
in
you
Las
met
Vegas.
him and you just don't remember his name.
I mean, a lot of people.
Yeah, it was a crazy night.
I can't remember anyone's name clearly.
Oh, well, Courtney, this has been a real walk down Chippendales lane. And I had no idea that world is so filled with controversy, murder, competition. It does seem to be fair to the guy who, Steve, that, he was screwed out of a lot of profits. If De Noia, Nick, had been just a little fairer with the split, probably wouldn't be any acrimony at all, right? I mean,
I believe so.
I don't think you should murder somebody over it. I'm just saying, though, he did have a legitimate dispute. Acrimony.
Well, and he probably didn't imagine that it was going to make so much money initially, the touring.
Yeah.
I see.
I don't think he thought the touring would. Yeah. And then he fell on hard times. I mean, there's the example of Steve came from a printing family in Mumbai. And so he was printing these calendars. And
sure, the Chippendales calendar.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so he approved a print of the calendar without looking and making sure that all of the dates were correct. He was really looking at the photos. And so they printed a calendar with 31 days in February.
That seems like the kind of mistake
that was $1 million mistake.
Somebody would make. You know who I'm thinking of who might make that mistake? I'm thinking of...
A werewolf can kill a vampire. Did you know that?
Yeah, right. That's exactly what I was thinking about it. Yeah,
but keep that in mind, Mark.
Your social media.
Right.
Keep that in mind in case you want to come out with a calendar.
With a calendar.
There's 28 days. And so that, among other things...
You got to go with it, though. Am I right? You go, hey, our new calendar's out, and guess what? We've added a couple of days to February. Especially if they're dudes who are scantily clad.
I mean, it could have actually been a great marketing
make
opportunity,
it a collectible.
But instead he had to pull them all back. It was, I think, nearly $1 million hit for him. And so he claimed bankruptcy, and that was in part fueled his rage and anger toward Nick and the situation with Nick De Noia having been very profitable on his end of Chippendales.
This has been great. Thank you for this.
Of course.
It is one of those things that was mysterious, given the fact that, oddly, as you say, they had no leads in all of that for so long. It's really a remarkable thing.
They thought his name was Ray Cohen.
Well, that was the thing. It did throw them off.
To be fair, that name was introduced before the segment, and I went with it.
We could try ignoring it, sir.
I tried ignoring it. Then she's going back with, like, she's under the line saying, wait a minute, is it this name or that name? All right.
Oh, that's too funny.
Courtney, great stuff. If you have anything for Courtney, you can send it to themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. I will push it on to her. themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com.
Or leave an angry comment in the YouTube comments.
Yes, it's follow through. How could you be so insensitive? They have families. We get it. And I'll say we agree. That's why we try to change the open so it's not we want to be both sensitive. We also want to tell the story. So in this case, that relates more to last week than this week.
Also what happened is we were teasing that we were going to talk about something, and a lot of people actually asked if it would be what had just happened.
Which was
I wanted
shooting,
to address that it wasn't. And so it was by no means meant to combine the two. It was more to address some of the questions around if we would be covering that.
Right. That was last week. This week we just purely, I think, we're on a good. But as John says, we're on solid ground. But that doesn't mean we won't take a heat. Somehow it's always there. You're so lovely, Courtney. Thank you very much for stopping through. We look forward to next Monday. All right, Courtney, everybody.
Mark's Murder Mystery Monday on The Mark Thompson Show.